Good afternoon, everyone. At this time, we are going to go ahead and get the meeting started. First up on the agenda, we are going to go into executive session, so we'll have to ask everybody into the audience to vacate. Once we conclude, we will call you all back in. Thank you all. At this time, I'm going to resume our normal meeting, and I want to say a warm welcome to Lori Turner. She's our newest advisory board member. I think she's going to be a great asset. I know that she's been involved in animal welfare on and off for about 10 years now or so. Yeah, 20? Okay. Oh, God, has it been that long? Yeah, I think she's going to be a wonderful asset, and again, warm welcome. Also at this time, I want to pass it over to Julie to say a few words about Renata West.
I'd like to just start off by asking if we could maybe all take a moment we lost an amazing friend. An amazing animal advocate in our community. I met her, Cleaner runs at Animal Control, and have watched her over the years foster numerous dogs, puppies, pregnant mamas, and Renata's an amazing woman for our community. So I know that we don't always see the same about everything, but I think we can probably all in this room agree to that. So if we could just take a moment of silence to, recognize her, and maybe that'll be one thing we can all be on the same page with today. Right. Thank you.
Next on the agenda, I just want to address the board with a few things. And just reminding you all that while it's not officially in our code of conduct, stuff that I have seen, the name calling, slanderous statements, especially on social media, is extremely unprofessional and unbecoming of board members. It's valid that we have concerns, questions, and ideas when it comes to animal care control, but I think we can do so in a more professional manner. And at this moment, I would like to make a motion to amend the current handbook and the bylaws to include professional conduct. Do I have a second? Thank you. I also would like to address the need for a co-chair. We're having this meeting now and not last September because I was out, so I don't want that to hinder any further meetings. Unfortunately, my nomination is not present today. Is there anybody else that would be interested in being co-chair? Sabine, I know that you were past president. I think we can table that until we can speak with Dr. McDermott. We'll move on to the approval of minutes. I hope everybody has had a chance to look over those. Do I have a motion to approve? Motion. Second. Second. So approved. And moving right along to monthly reports. Does anybody have any questions or comments? No? If there's no questions about that, I'm going to pass it over to Kenita Johnson at this time.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. First on the agenda is the advisory board duties and responsibilities. And I wanted to take this opportunity to bring it to the, or just remind the board of their responsibilities as an advisory board member. The mission of the Animal Control Advisory Board is to monitor the operations of Animal Services Division and render such guidance and assistance as it is deemed appropriate in order to encourage responsible pet ownership. Proposals and recommendations shall normally be presented during the periodic board meetings. Matters that need immediate attention should be referred to the Animal Services Coordinator or the Director. And with that being said, I wanted to make sure that when we do come to the board meetings, we are focused on that creed to work to encourage responsible pet ownership. It is in our Unicode ordinances, and I have prepared that for everyone in the packet that they have today. The bylaws review. August 29th, there was a subcommittee meeting. That subcommittee consisted of Board Member Raymond Culpepper, Board Member Shannon Emery, and myself. Katrina Pearson was the recording clerk. It is my understanding that the actual bylaws were actually brought before the board some time ago, and what we did was we actually went over them and revisited those bylaws before we present them to our council, our clerk of council. In that, you should have, or if you do not, we'll definitely go over that, the product of that meeting and some of the some of those things that were outlined and questioned. Does everyone have a copy of that? Of the control board, okay. So in there were a couple of questions that we had, and I wanted to take the time to address those. One of the questions about the bylaws, well, before I get started, was there anything in particular anyone had outside of things that were addressed in the minutes that were taken? Okay.
My apologies, I did skip over that, I think.
No worries. So one of the questions that came out of that subcommittee meeting was the actual heading. The heading said, at the beginning it was the creation, and at the very end it read that it has subsequently been amended. As of right now, the ordinances have not been amended, so we actually moved that last remark, but everything else stood. Okay. The membership header, the board has a question regarding the pro tem chairperson appointment. It was discussed, and the status of we also wanted to change the status of Paul's representing to vote. That is still something we will present to the clerk of council. I actually was to reach out to the clerk of council regarding the bylaws when it comes to the dismissal of a board member for their attendance. I spoke with clerk of council, and we are to follow the actual amendments that were made in the ordinance in 2002, which says that there has to be 3 absences before a board member can be considered for dismissal. And with that, even then, we have to provide the clerk of council with the days that that individual was absent due to an unexcused, and at that time, it will go before council for the final decision to be made. So this body can only make a recommendation. Okay? Any questions on that? There was discussion, Robbie Culpepper agreed that there is to be a sign-in sheet for each meeting. On that sign-in sheet, we will have on there the agenda items, and any agenda item that someone feels that they have a conflict of interest, they will be able to check that, and they will be excluded from that if it is a voting item. The meetings header, discussion to incorporate quarterly meetings. Ordinances states we are required to have only 2 a year. Of course, this will be something we will need to discuss, and at the beginning of each new year, we will add those scheduled meetings. Last on the discussion was, in the event there is not enough to have a meeting because we don't meet a quorum, the question was asked as to whether or not we can continue with discussions, and the clerk of council has advised that we can continue with a meeting, but it will be considered unofficial. The secretary, of course, it will be her discretion as to whether or not she take minutes. And that was the end of our meeting. What you have in your packet is amendments to the bylaws as discussed. We'll have an opportunity to look over those, and anyone with any suggestions can definitely make those known before they are presented to the clerk of council to be taken into consideration or to put into our ordinance. And Courtney, I know that you wanted to add, did you want to add the actual professionalism or board member handout as well as this for the professional conduct?
Yes.
Okay.
For the section on unexcused absences, what if that's just the standard, they didn't let anybody know, and are they to let the chairperson know or you?
So yes, in the event of an excused absence or an absence, they will have to reach out to the secretary. Any other questions? If there are any other recommendations, I will be able to take those in the next couple of weeks before we will send this up to the clerk of council. Okay. On the agenda, we have ordinances. I had the opportunity to meet a gentleman by the name of J. Allen Barber. He is assistant director for the University of Georgia. And what he teaches is the practicum of in animal welfare skills. What that looks like is he has second and third year law students that he works with or he teaches, and what they work on is helping cities throughout the state of Georgia update, change, or add to ordinances. And they do it at no cost. And so their main focus is to make sure that all of the cities in the state of Georgia are working on either a proactive or at least updating ordinances to be more relevant in animal welfare. And I'm sure everyone can agree with me that our ordinances as they stand are a little dated. I did speak with him, and he is willing to come and help the city of Columbus. And so working directly with this board to help not only help to go over evaluate our ordinances, and then come back and share with us how we can put in best practices to move forward in amending them and taking them before council so they can be approved. They've been doing this recently with Forsyth County here, just up the road from us, and they have had great success. And so I would like to bring him here so he can discuss with us what they can do for us and in the time frame. Of course, it's not going to be overnight, but they are definitely willing to come and work with us directly, this board, as we are the conduit for those changes. Case in point, two changes that he and I discussed, and they are in your packet as well, is regarding mandatory spay and neutering, as well as mandatory microchipping of dogs and cats. The ordinances that are in front of you, or the proposed ordinances, are those that are already in place in some of the cities here in Georgia, one of them coming from Macon County. And what it is, it's, of course, an ordinance put in place where our citizens are required to spay or neuter their animals, registering them just as as we are asking them to do now, but fines will now be associated with those things not being done in conjunction with others. So in the event that a person has an animal running at large and they have not registered their animal, those permits they don't have, if we see that the animal is intact and they don't have any reasons why they could not be, they will receive a citation for that. So these are just some ordinances that he brought forward that probably would be very beneficial for the city of Columbus to encourage pet ownership responsibility. Any questions on that? And lastly, this is, of course, upcoming budget year. As I mentioned in our last meeting, we are constantly working on budgets, and so I'm coming to the board now with any suggestions, recommendations, so that I can add it to my budget proposals that have to be turned in to my boss at a certain time. And I want to get everyone's input so that I can include that in addition to what I'm already preparing. Time is of the essence, because once I turn in what I have to my leadership, she is also on a timeline. So it is very important that you get your recommendations into me on a constant, whether it's an email or a phone call, whatever the case may be, so that I can add it to our budget and we won't be in a crunch for time. And I'll be able to share that proposed budget with you prior to the budget being reviewed and put into act.
At this time, we're going to move on to our public agenda. We have one group and one individual speaking. I just want to remind those individuals there is a 5-minute time cap. At the end of that 5 minutes, I would have to ask you to step down. And once I call you up, to please come up to the podium. There is a speaker button to make sure you hit that so that everybody can hear you. First on the agenda is going to be Columbus Animal Allies, speaking about CACC transparency. Come on up to the podium, please.
Do we each get 5 minutes, or just 5 minutes?
No, it's collectively, yeah. And again, we'll allow you the 5 minutes. We are going to be recording any questions or concerns, things that you're speaking on, and it's just not going to be, it can't be a Q&A situation, so it'll have to be addressed at a later time.
Okay, hi, we're with Columbus Animal Allies, and wanted to speak about some issues that we have been talking about and looking at for at least well over a year now, issues that involve the operations of Columbus Animal Care and Control that have to do with things like cleanliness, sanitation, humane care of the animals, transparency and communication, and above all, saving lives of the animals who are there. We've included some information in your packets for you. The first is a couple of emails that were sent from Paws Humane to CACC in August, detailing a situation with cleaning and sanitation that they had asserted was leading to problems with parvo. And in their second email, they had said that they were going to suspend pulling animals from CACC until that was resolved. We would like to find out if that has been resolved and ask that that be resolved in a public and transparent way, because much of the information has been through, having to do open records requests to find things like those Paws emails that detail some really shocking conditions there that you will see in your packet. Also in your packet, we have information about animals being left without vet care, and there's a dog named Pancake. That's just one example of this that you have information about in your packet. There is a Department of Agriculture inspection report from a citizen who had found this dog and turned the dog over to CACC. The dog had a broken pelvis and sat there for a week. And in the Department of Agriculture report, you'll see that it was stated by the manager of CACC that Dr. Hall saw that dog on intake on September 28th. You will also see Dr. Hall's invoices that show that he was not there on the 28th. You will see his invoices that show that. You'll also see an email in which I was informed by a city council member that CACC management had said that Dr. Hall recommended x-rays and further vet care for Pancake, and you'll see a state law that requires anyone impounding an animal to provide necessary veterinary care. In my view, if Dr. Hall says this animal needs x-rays and further vet care, that would then be construed as necessary vet care. The animal did not receive that. The dog did not receive that, and he was pulled by a rescue, fortunately, but that information is also in your packet. And then we wanted to talk about some solutions. Shelter software, which was something that was mentioned in the audit that was released in January 2023. Do you want to talk a little bit about the software and then the euthanasia?
Yeah, I can do that. I'm Mimi Steiger. What Allie's referring to is shelter software. It's been mentioned by the audit. It's been proposed in the budget for a while and everything. And the reason it's significant is because it would reduce staff time spent on paperwork, free up staff time for direct animal care, would streamline. You'd be able to incorporate protocols for cleaning and sanitizing, document when it's done, medication, protocol, all of those kinds of things. And on the adoption side, integrates with things like pet finder, so photos are automatically put up and things like that. So in essence, what it does is it helps streamline and improve operations, frees up staff time, and helps improve outcomes in that way. And Shelter Love was one that was had a booth at the Best Friends Conference that staff attended back in Houston, and I believe it was August. And then they did have a follow-up meeting with them. The reason I know about that was because I set up a meeting with Shelter Love to try to get information to be able to pass along. And it turns out that as far as cost, I think it's something around $2 per adoption per month. And they also offer a donation feature. So they found that a number of shelters actually are making money off of this. So people adopting can also donate. So that was the significance of the shelter software, and recommending or asking of the advisory board to ask when software is going to be acted upon. Was that 5 minutes?
Yes, I'm sorry, that was the time limit.
Are
That
we
was
allowed
5?
to have another, like the way city council does, a couple minutes? If you don't finish speaking in the public agenda in 5 minutes, then after the meeting, you can have another, I think 2 minutes. Can we have that?
There were
Excellent
just two
question.
other points. Just two other.
Yeah, can you set it for another 2? Yeah, go ahead.
This thing is not working, by the way, that tells us how long we have left.
It says
It's stuck on
26.
26 seconds. Okay, well, we can't see it.
That's what I'm saying. I wouldn't have gone on so long. I'm sorry.
So we have an idea that we need to wrap up.
Is that right now or afterwards? Go ahead with it now? Okay, so after the software, okay. I'll mention, you want to mention the Save a Pet?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, the other thing, mentioning the veterinary care and need for that, the solution to that, fortunately, is already in place. The Save a Pet documentation, it's a program, it's already on the website. It mentions an emergency fund set up through the finance department where members of the public can donate money for emergency vet care. So that being reactivated gives the potential for the public to go ahead and donate for that care and make it provided. The final thing is we did request the euthanasia substance forms. I'm sure you're aware of that. And what we did was we compiled them all, and we found something that is probably going to be disturbing to the public, but tranquilizer is not provided to, has not been provided to any cat or any wildlife that has been euthanized since the beginning of the year. We did find an instance of one cat in June and one turtle in June, but other than that, 100% have not received tranquilizer. And of dogs, the number varies per month, but last month it was 70%.
Did not receive tranquilizer.
Did not receive
before being
tranquilizer.
euthanized.
So asking about the euthanasia policy requiring tranquilizer when possible.
Thank you very much. Next up is Cherie Harris.
Hello, I go by Shay, but.
I'm sorry,
it's
my
okay.
apologies.
It's okay, no problem at all. I'd like to speak on a few basic life-saving steps that CACC are currently not in place that are vital to being able to get more animals moving out of the animal control alive. Number one, making sure the phone is answered consistently. There have been numerous instances of the public complaining that they called and no one answered the phone, nor were their calls returned when they left a message. Number two, clear photos need to be taken of each and every animal on intake and posted on their Facebook page upon intake. This should be a standard policy, not just randomly done when volunteers are able to take pictures, but as a matter of policy for CACC. There's been at least one reunion that we saw happen in the past few weeks just based on the photos that volunteers have been posting. So if we get more consistent with that and make it a standard, then we can see many more animals reconciled with their owners just through good pictures and bios on these dogs. There are inconsistencies with the bios as well, but if we make it a policy to put those bios and pictures in place on the website, it moves that process along, and it gives volunteers, rescue citizens who monitor the page, the opportunity quickly to see these dogs and be able to network and get the information out there for people. Along with that, CACC needs to reestablish relationships with the local rescues, develop those relationships, and to sustain good working relationships with those rescues. Rescues are a vital part of the success of CACC in getting animals moved out alive. Rescues want to help save lives. We want to help. I believe that these 4 steps will help CACC succeed in saving animal lives in Columbus, Georgia. Thank you.
I want to take a moment to thank the speakers. Is there anything else that anybody would like to say or address? Kanita, any other members? Okay. I move to adjourn.
I would just like to go back to the 70% not being tranquilized. I thought that was a requirement in always for every single dog to receive.
Courtney, first let me say that all of our shelter technicians, and they're not even technicians, they're shelter staff, are trained by our vet in order to administer euthanasia. He teaches them what to do and how to do it. Now, I'm not a vet. I'm not going to sit here and argue or even make a comment as to whether or not what the individuals that were up speaking regarding euthanasia were stating was true or not. I don't know. But I think it would be in the best interest of our community to have Dr. Hall or a veterinarian or send a new vet in to watch us administer euthanasia to confirm that it is being done correctly. And I feel confident that you will find that the report is that they are doing it correctly. I think that's fair. I think sitting here making the assumption that they're doing it wrong is unfair without it being assessed. That's all I'm saying.
I move to adjourn. Everybody good? Okay. Meeting's adjourned. Yes. Meeting's adjourned.